When you think about it, what the market values is not so much your ability to be good at coding. Because, when I was young, my parents were like, oh, you need to know coding, otherwise you're going to get left behind. I think we have to understand that humanity is so good at coding that not everyone needs to know how to code, because what the market values is not how good a coder you are. What it values is your creativity, your ability to come up with new ideas to make a particular industry or service work better. And there is no reason that if you do not know how to code, you are going to be held behind, because the market values creativity over coding. I'm Saksham Sharda. I'm the creative director at outgrow.co.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries who share in the critical moments of what it takes to change an industry and build and lead a team that has your back. I'm your host, Noah Laphart, and today I'll Saksham Sharda joined the rocket ship of interactive content to further the no-code revolution. All this and more on Code Story. Saksham Sharda likes to make short films, or anything that is related to videos. In fact, he's narrowed that down to creating trailers, which he attributes to being in the right role in marketing. He's always active in making social media clips and is always recording everything, even the most boring moments, in his words. The founders of Saksham's current venture started out building an estimator for what it would take to build an app. This estimator became very popular, and they figured they should build a platform to enable others to make their own. This is the creation story of Outgrow.
Well, Outgrow is a no-code tool that you can use to boost your marketing. It allows you to make calculators, quizzes, recommendations, chatbots, basically anything on the internet that is interactive and not static. So not a blog, etc., but other means of marketing like quizzes, calculators, chatbots, anything that interacts with your customer. That is what Outgrow allows you to build very easily. You need not have any expertise at all. So for instance, say on a lawyer's website, the primary call to action was just contact me. Now imagine instead if, they had a quiz or a calculator on their website that said, see how much I can save you in legal fees. Now, this quiz or calculator is providing immediate value. It's going to ask you a couple of questions like, how many contracts do you need signed per day or per month? And based on that, and other questions like, which state you're based in, etc., etc. And all of that, they take that into account, and then they give you an estimate of how much money you're going to save if you hire their particular law firm. Interactive content like this helps this legal firm stand out from, the tons of legal firms out there that have websites. So this is one use case of interactive content, and this is what Outgrow helps you to do. The co-founders of the company, they arrived at this idea because back in the 2000s, when the app stores, etc., the Apple iPhone store, the App Store and the Play Store on Google had just launched, and everyone had an idea for an app. And our co-founders were like, okay, since everyone has an idea, let's give them an estimate of how much it is actually going to cost them to build such an app. So they made a calculator that would show you. It became the go-to place on the internet for you to get an estimate of how much it's going to cost you to build an app. And once they built this calculator, they realized a better business model would be to allow people to build similar calculators and similar quizzes and interactive content pieces so that they can attract customers to their own website. So that's the origin of Outgrow.
Tell me about the MVP then. Maybe it's that calculator, or maybe it's past that, probably past that. But tell me about it. How long did it take to build, and what sort of tools were used to bring it to life?
Now, because, this was the beginning of the company, but now we have more than 1,000 templates of calculators, quizzes, contests, etc. that you can easily just customize in 5 to 10 minutes, because you just take the template, you brand it with your own company's colors, you add some questions, you add some, points within that interactive content piece that is more customizable. It's more personalized to your company and caters to what your clients actually need. So it's actually very easy for you to just have all of this set up in like 5 to 10 minutes, and you can put it on your website. There's many ways of embedding it. Like you can have it as a chatbot format, or you can have it like a full page embed, or you can have a floating triangle, rectangle, etc., or like a pop-up, etc. All of these are totally possible. You can have it on your Facebook ads. Facebook allows you to embed interactive content in your ads, etc. So the possibilities are limitless, and that's what you can do with the software now.
In the early days when the software was being built, what sort of decisions and trade-offs had to be made? And how did the team, and whether it be the founders, whether it be you, whether it be the rest of the team, how did you cope with those decisions of feature cuts or technical debt or things like that?
Well, I think initially the focus was on quizzes and calculators, because that is what you see everywhere around you. And that was like the main focus. But once that got super mainstream, we started working on more niche interactive content pieces like contests or chatbots or e-commerce recommendations. For instance, quizzes and calculators, I say it's mainstream, but it's also very subtly mainstream, which obviously is not the definition of mainstream. The point is you would not see it. So for instance, if you go to the Tesla website today, Tesla famously spends 0% of its budget on marketing. Instead, what it has is when you go on their website, they have a simple car configurator, which is a quiz. It's a car configurator. You go on their website, you pick what kind of Tesla you want to build, the colors, the engine, the type of seats, etc., and the mileage, and what kind of fuel, etc., how many savings you want to make. So it's a quiz and a calculator. So a car configurator is actually a quiz and a calculator. And the power that we are giving any small and medium business out there is that they can build something like this for their own business, because it's applicable not just to building a car, it's applicable to literally every product or service on the internet out there. And the point about this is that when you have a quiz or a calculator like this on your website, you are also collecting zero-party data and first-party data, which is data that the customer is giving you willingly when they go through this quiz. Every time they answer a question, you learn what kind of business plans that you're selling, that they're interested in, what their business's key concerns are. And so you can modify your supply chain so that in the case of Tesla, right, if people are interested in a particular car feature, they obviously, when they're going through the quiz, they keep clicking on that feature, so they know how many of that particular feature they need to modify their supply chain for. So it's literally everywhere. Like you walk into a McDonald's and you have these screens where you can build your own burger menu. That is essentially a quiz and a calculator. It's literally everywhere. So for instance, if you go to the HubSpot website today, for any SaaS tool, for instance, like HubSpot, they have on their pricing page, they're like, which plan is the most suitable for you? They have a quiz for that, and then they give you a customized plan. And so for instance, on a podcast website, you could literally have a quiz that says, which of our episodes should you listen to first? And then you ask them relevant questions like, what's your industry? What is the key issue you're trying to solve? What kind of other podcasts are you listening to? And this way you're also doing competitor research. You can ask them a question like, what are the podcasts you listen to, so that we can recommend you episodes that would suit you. But at the same time, you are learning what podcasts they're listening to, so you can actually go and improve your own podcast based on what your listeners are listening to as well. So the possibilities are endless, because mainly you're collecting so much helpful data to keep refining your product.
This episode is sponsored by Vanta. You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your number one priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. And obtaining your SOC 2 or ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors. But they take time and energy, pulling you away from building and shipping. And that's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution, helping startups like yours get audit ready and build a strong security foundation quickly and painlessly. How, you ask? Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. And the platform connects you with trusted vCISOs to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. Join over 8,000 companies, including many Y Combinator and Techstars startups who trust Vanta. Simplify compliance and get $1,000 off at vanta.com/codestory. That's vanta.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Kinsta. Between juggling client meetings, managing your website, and keeping up with everyday tasks, who has the time to stress out about website security? Well, with Kinsta, the technical stuff is taken care of, so you can focus on what you do best. Kinsta provides managed hosting for WordPress, offering lightning-fast load times, top-tier security, and unmatched human-only customer support. Whether you're a business owner, web developer, or running a digital agency, Kinsta makes managing your website easy and efficient. Kinsta provides enterprise-grade security, being one of the few hosting providers for WordPress with SOC 2 and other certifications, guaranteeing the highest level of security for your website. Thanks to their unlimited free expert-led migrations, Kinsta ensures a smooth transition for you from other hosting providers. Customers have reported 200% faster load times post-migration to their platform. What I find cool about Kinsta is their fast and reliable customer service and premium features that are included at no extra cost. Ready to experience Kinsta's hosting for yourself? Get your first month free when you sign up at kinsta.com today. That's KINSTA.com. How do you go about building your roadmap at Outgrow? How do you decide as a team, this is the next most important thing to build or to address with Outgrow?
Well, at present, we serve 21 different industries. So I think a good starting point is for us to really focus on all 21 of these and assign departments to work separately in all 21 of them, because the use cases of the software are so limitless that no matter what particular segment we choose to focus on, we know we're going to have enormous revenue growth. So really the decision is, do we focus on one industry? Like, we could focus on particular industries that that we understand would generate a lot of revenue, but then we also need to keep our minds open to focus on industries that we don't know might generate a lot of revenue, because we think we know that some industries generate a lot of revenue, but there are industries that people have not ever approached with this idea before, because it's just not existed before, and we don't know how that industry would perform. So we are equally focusing on industries that generate revenue, but we are also equally focusing on industries that no one has any idea about. So we're constantly innovating and try to enter all the spaces possible, because with a no-code tool, it's easy, right? You just have to give a demonstration of how the tool works, or make people aware with examples that are easy to understand, like a car configurator, which you can literally use for any of the 21 industries that exist on this planet. So for finance services, you can use it. You can use it for, real estate or anything. So it's totally possible. For instance, for real estate, I'll give you an example. We had one of our clients, they made a calculator that, so they're selling real estate, but they made a calculator that said, how much can you make by Airbnb-ing your property? Now, this has obviously got nothing to do with real estate sales. It's more of a rental market. But that calculator, they made it when Airbnb was just taking off, and it became the go-to place for Airbnb hosts to find out which city they should Airbnb their property in. And this gave them so much website traffic that they were able to increase their real estate sales themselves, even though they're a real estate company and not a rental company. So the ideas are limitless when you're working with a new technology in an old industry or in a new industry as well.
So let's switch to team. So how do you go about building your team, and what do you look for in those people to indicate that they're the winning horses to join you at Outgrow?
I think with team, it really matters not so much as what qualifications they are on their CV, which is important, but I think it is the ability of the employee to be constantly innovative and to constantly try to come up with new ideas, because what we're really looking for, and I think that's an important thing for any industry or even governments to understand, is that you need new ideas. Like, at some point, people who came up with the original ideas, the co-founders, for instance, their ideas are going to become calcified, like they're going to become old. So you always constantly need new blood. You need new ideas. You need people who understand the new social media networks better, which is why I think it's important to hire Gen Z. If you want to do something in TikTok, you got to have people who are on TikTok constantly, because I'm not. So, that constantly. So I guess I wouldn't be the best person to make a TikTok marketing campaign, but you need to constantly experiment with new social media networks, new softwares, and for that you constantly need new blood, and it's not always helpful to retain, old blood, if I could put it like that, yeah.
So let's flip to scalability. So was this built to scale efficiently from day one, or is this something the company's fighting as you grow and gain traction?
Well, I think we made it based on a prediction that interactive content is going to be the next big thing, and we were quite squarely positioned to ride the wave when it did originate. So I think we're pretty much riding the wave, and it is scaling, and we don't really need to do much except focus our resources and energies in, as I said, in these 21 different industries to ride as much of the wave as possible and not miss out on anything while this trend is really at the forefront, because the collection of zero party and first party data is still like, it's the key thing on the internet right now. So I think it was definitely meant to be made with an intention to scale. And because no-code tools are becoming the go-to thing for any marketer, because when you think about it, like, what the market values is not so much your ability to be good at coding. Because, when I was young, my parents were like, oh, you need to know coding, otherwise you're going to get left behind. But I think we have to understand that humanity is so good at coding that not everyone needs to know how to code, because what the market values is not how good a coder you are. What it values is your creativity, your ability to come up with new ideas to make a particular industry or service work better. And there is no reason that if you do not know how to code, you are going to be held behind, because the market values creativity over coding. So yeah.
That's well put. Yeah, I think that the creativity over coding is absolutely true. The difficulty in building things nowadays is much less. And you can create solutions, you can create platforms, you can do all the things to a certain point without knowing how to code. As you step out on the balcony and look across all that you've been a part of and built at Outgrow, what are you most proud of?
I think the ability to understand how much fun marketing and building a business can be if you don't take it too seriously, which is what something no-code tools empower you to do, because we have used our own software. I have used Outgrow to make marketing campaigns and, awareness campaigns and business campaigns that barely required, like I could do everything myself. I didn't really need to hire a designer and a developer and everything else. By myself, within a day, I was able to make a campaign that was able to rank number one on Product Hunt, which is this website that gets almost 6 million monthly viewers in the tech scene, every month. So we were able to make campaigns that have multiple times, reach number one there, and that's because we are able to ride market trends fast because we are using no-code tools. So one of the things we made, for instance, was when 2020 was turning out to be quite shitty for everyone, but things have gotten much worse since 2020. But 2020 was like the first year where a lot of things were going bad. There was like a hurricane, there was a locust swarm, Corona had just entered, and then what else was there? There were forest fires and all of this stuff, and earthquakes as well. So we made a simple quiz, because ours is a quiz making software. We made a simple quiz called Which 2020 Disaster Are You? And we just did that as a team building exercise, just for fun. We put in silly questions there and everything. And this quiz ranked number one, 2, and 4. Like it ranked, it was in the top 4 for a whole day. And it got so many hits that it really put our software at the forefront of everything. But really what is important to note is because we had a no-code tool to make this easily, and we were able to really do it as a fun activity, what we realized is that any campaign you do, any business kind of campaign that you're doing, it doesn't always have to be work. It has to also be something that rides a trend, something that is fun to do something that everyone else is talking about. So I think that's one of the key things I've learned is not all goals are hard to reach, and there are some goals that are very easy to reach if you just are able to look at the bigger picture, and they require minimal effort if you have no-code tools, because it shouldn't be so hard to reach goals.
Well, let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
Well, we got into a fight, a social media Twitter fight with a guy who was very good at making companies. He made 20 startups in a year. And his idea was that so many startups fail, I'm just going to make like a startup, one new startup in every year, etc., etc. And he is quite famous. And we were just talking about how one of his tools that he made, an interactive content piece that he made, can be used for collecting first-party and zero-party data. But this was before the terms first-party data and zero-party data were considered, politically correct. So I think he just misunderstood what we said as data collection, and that's really not what we meant. This was consensual data and everything. So he replied to our tweets with a very angry response. But then, as it happens with Twitter, as Elon Musk has discovered recently, most of the Twitter rage is basically bots. So it's not even real. So yeah, there was a fight that lasted for I think 5 minutes or 15 minutes, or maybe it was a day, but I think after that no one really cared or did anything. So that was a mistake we made. But then again, the thing with mistakes is to again look at them at the bigger picture, because I don't think anyone is big enough to make mistakes that would bring down an entire organization.
So what does the future look like for Outgrow, the product, and for your team?
Well, we don't know. It really depends on because there's so much uncertainty in the winds because of so much happening in the world right now. But the future is basically the ability to pivot, which we're not very good at, but we are good at, I would say. We are able to see what is working for us even momentarily, and we are able to be okay, that seems to be working. Let's go for that. So, for instance, we have a podcast associated with the company. It's called the Marketer of the Month podcast, and it's doing really well. And so we are putting more resources into it because it's starting to do so well. But that wasn't the intention. We just made a podcast because we were why not, as a marketing strategy? But then it started doing really, really well. So now we're kind of focused on that in addition to the product and service that we have already. So we really don't know what direction what is going to go in. At some point, we assume that the podcast will become as big as a company. We don't know that, but we are happy to, divert resources to whatever the market, whatever, let's just say, whatever swing the market swings us towards. We're okay, let's swing this swing. Let's ride this wave. Let's see where this takes us. So I think that is the idea for the future, is to be very flexible and versatile.
Let's switch to you. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person that you look up to and why.
Well, I think our co-founder is very influential, Randy. He is able to come up with really great ideas that I may not initially believe in, but then eventually I start to believe in them after I work on them a little. So he is one of the people who've been influential. But in my personal life in general, I would say I'm influenced by, I don't know if you know the American screenwriter Aaron Sorkin, who wrote The Social Network and Jobs and several other movies. Aaron Sorkin, I think he's got a very great way of thinking, and I like just his approach towards writing, because I think writing is very helpful in doing anything. Content creation is firstly understanding what your audience wants, and for that you need to be a good writer. So I think that would be a person that influences me.
We talked about a mistake, right, in the Twitter fight, right? But if you could go back to the beginning, what would you do different, or where would you consider taking a different approach?
Oh, I think we should have engaged more in that Twitter fight. Because as I think, who said this I think it was Samantha in Sex and the City, says that there is no such thing as bad press. And I think that was pretty much the philosophy of Twitter, is that you really do not get cancelled. You just get a lot of free press. There's nothing that a cancel crowd can do to you, because there is no legal contract that forces a cancel crowd to just be oh, you're going to get cancelled. It's just, I think if we had actually engaged in a Twitter fight, as in, well, I don't even want to call it a fight because that's a derogatory term. If we had engaged in a discussion with someone who is being very rude, but is then forced to confront you in a very debating way, then that would have been a more interesting thread than a thread that is just trying to pacify someone who is clearly in a fighty spirit. So I think it would have been totally okay if we had continued with that fight.
Well, last question. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world. And they can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit with Outgrow?
Well, I think the simplest advice would be, if they want to get noticed, it's not just about having a great product. It's also about having good marketing, and a good place to start would be to launch their product on Product Hunt, because it would catch some people's eyes, and you need to catch the world's attention even for a millisecond in order to get funding, in case you need funding. But if you don't even need funding, which might be the case, if you have no-code tools, if you get good at using no-code tools, you really do not need funding, because you can just make your product and service work even for 100 people, and that would generate a lot of money, because even 100 good customers is better than 10,000 followers who don't really care about you so much, but they're just following you. So yeah.
Well, Saksham, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for telling the creation story and your creation story of Outgrow.
Thanks for having me, Noah.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Laphart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. Support the show on patreon.com/codestory for just $5 to $10 a month. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
Business taxes. We're stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live full service.